guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Enzo Masia and I'm so excited to have you here. It's such a pleasure to have this conversation with you as I continue to share my journey on the gay pages of my diary. And today, I want to focus on my varsity journey. But before I get into it, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe so that we can grow. And for those who are seeing this channel for the first time today, if you like the content, I urge you to seriously consider subscribing and putting your notifications on so that you can be notified every time I post a new video. In any case, before I get into my transition into varsity, I wanted to just clarify what was happening on my journey insofar as high school was concerned, so that you are very clear in terms of what was happening at that time before I went into varsity, which is a whole new ball game. Insane, I tell you. But before I get to that, I think throughout high school, I was not really focused on or even interested in dating, and not to mention dating boys, because of the whole stigma around it, and also just the feelings of just of fear and just not understanding what I myself was also going through during that period. So in high school, throughout high school, in as much as outwardly in terms of my appearance, one could tell that this is a gay boy, but I never explored. I never had any encounters in high school, particularly because I was bullied quite a lot in throughout high school, and so it made even that whole thing undesirable. It's not something I was interested in, and it wasn't really my focus in high school. I think in high school my focus was really just getting good grades and doing well, and that was pretty much my focus. I did everything else in terms of participating at school, but focusing on possibly dating, it was not even up for on the cards for me. So fast forward, matric year, we're finalizing our applications, and I got accepted into varsity. Initially I got accepted into UCT, but for funding reasons and scholarship reasons, I ended up applying at the last minute, mind you, to the University of the Western Cape, and they quickly accepted me, and that would be basically my home for about 6-7 years. Okay, maybe five or 6 years, somewhere there. Anyway, that would be my home, and that's where my life was, and that's where I started my junior degree at the University of the Western Cape. From a dating perspective, from high school, I think I only had one instance where I almost dated a girl, but for the most part, I had crushes in high school, to be honest. And I didn't have crushes on boys, interestingly enough. I had crushes on girls, which later on in my life, when I was actually like considering everything and asking myself, so are you bi or are you gay? That was actually a factor, because in the early stages of my teens and my late teens, I was just crushing on a lot of beautiful girls, and I think they could probably see who I am, because all of them actually rejected me. Yikes. But anyway, yeah, so that was pretty much my high school journey. I didn't date any boys. Fast forward, I get to varsity. My mom's bringing me to varsity, and we flew together for the first time in my life to Cape Town. And we get to Cape Town. My mom, helped me settle in for O week. While I was doing O week, she was basically taking care of my dorm room, from getting whatever necessities I needed at the time. My mom took care of all of that, whilst I did orientation, and I was getting orientated around campus and figuring out where everything is, etc., and adjusting, to varsity life. And she left after that, after a week, and I sobbed. Oh my goodness, I sobbed because, it was my first time being left in this place, which I chose, mind you. I'm the one that, decided to go to Cape Town out of all the places. Joburg was here and there were several universities in Pretoria was here, but I specifically chose Cape Town because I wanted freedom. I wanted to be away from home. Um, as kids, we lived a very sheltered life. Our lives were very sheltered at home. We were always mostly homebound. Whenever, Banaba Strata, we're always at home. Even our neighbors would be very, they would make snide comments about us always being indoors, etc., etc. But that was typically our life. So when my opportunity came for me to go to varsity, I wanted freedom, and Cape Town was my freedom. Got to Cape Town, at Res, met up with incredible individuals, made amazing friends, from the beginning. And it was just a whole group of girls that, I met and I was introduced to. And interestingly enough, I also had gay friends. However, we never necessarily, the relationship did not revolve around our sexuality. The relationship was literally about just, compatibility and mutual energies, and we just loved each other. We just loved each other's company, and we enjoyed each other's company, and that was pretty much the basis of my friendship with those guys that I was friends with who were gay. We never discussed issues of sexuality. We never, delved into that stuff. It was just pure friendship, which was amazing. So my first couple of years at varsity, I dated women, and I enjoyed those relationships. It was great. Never at any point in my life did I feel like I was doing something wrong or this wasn't natural or whatever the case may be. It was great. I enjoyed it for the most part, and those relationships ended um, in that moment, with reference to the first year now, and yeah. So now for the first time, obviously I'm at varsity, and everyone's free game at varsity. And people are very confident and they're very bold. They will come for you. They will, reach out to you to actually ask for your number or whatever the case may be. And a lot of guys actually reached out to me in my first year. Some, would inbox me via, the student mailbox. Wow. The admin of actually having to go to my faculty and to look for my student number and wada, and searching me online, whatever the case may be, was actually quite interesting. And they would DM me. I remember there was this guy. He was so persistent. He DM'd me on my student mailbox, and he professed his undying love, blah 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 blah, and it was quite interesting. Needless to say, my response was, "Hey, I'm not gay, and I'm definitely not interested in being in a relationship with another man," something to that effect. And then, it was a whole back and forth about how he can see me and how I'm straight acting. That is actually the first time I was introduced to the concept of straight acting, because I wasn't even aware that I was doing it. But according to this guy, I was doing that, and that's the story he ran with. And yeah, and several other guys actually, hit on me, and to which I would just decline consistently. And so that was pretty much, my life. I remember at some point there was a guy that was so persistent, it really felt like he was stalking me at some point, because he would, come into Res as well, and he found out like where I was staying. And I recall I actually like spoke to the brothers which I was in ministry with at the time, because I was involved in campus ministry. Some of my close ones, and I said to them, you know what, there's a guy that is, he's hitting on me, and I'm really not interested, and can you please just come and be with me when he's around or whatever, just to make sure that I'm safe and I'm protected and stuff. And they agreed, and they came and they were with me. And when this guy came, he couldn't say anything in front of them because I had this whole armor around me, and I actually thank God for that brotherhood. During my time in Cape Town, never at once did I feel like I was being judged by that whole circle. I always felt like it was a brotherhood. I felt at home. I felt safe, and it was such an incredible experience for me at the time, until I started coming out to some of them, and obviously they had different reactions. And this was much later on in life, post varsity, post school, and I'll share that I think in another video in terms of how everyone reacted to my eventual coming out. But my whole varsity life basically was just characterized by me just running away. I never really, explored any relationship. There was a friend of mine who was in a relationship, who was gay, and he was dating someone. And I guess I lived vicariously through that relationship because, I was always looking forward to what was happening, in his life, and he would come and give me feedback and tell me exactly, what happened, etc. Although he was kind of also uncomfortable about it because, the channel wasn't exactly like completely open for us to be talking about, his life in that way. And he was also, I think, going through his own journey as well in terms of just being comfortable enough to actually talk about, his relationship with the man at the time. And so that's as close as I got. I remember one guy actually who found the courage to come to my room and kind of show interest in me was in the debating team, because I soon joined the debating team. I think in my first year, if not second year, because that's something I used to do. In high school, I was involved in public speaking, and so I admired this guy, from the debating team. And you could say I low-key had a crush on him. Okay, let me be honest. I've always had a thing for men who are eloquent, well-spoken, and confident. Men who come into a room and, they are very much, bold about who they are, not arrogant, confidence, and boldness. Because arrogance is really something else that's off-putting. But yeah, and he was that guy for me in the debating team, and he won most of the debates, if not all of them. And so he was somewhat someone I admired and wanted to be like within the team. And I think at some point he probably saw that, and that's what gave him the courage to probably, hit on me, to which I respectfully, again, declined. And even though I declined that proposal, deep in my heart, I knew that I desired him and I wanted to be with him. But however, because of the place that I was at in my life in terms of my journey, I really couldn't bring myself to accept that. And because then what would it mean for me, and what would it mean, about, myself at the time and my life that I was living at the time. And so I declined that. And that was pretty much my life, post varsity, and until I left, Cape Town and went back home. And that's where, a different journey then unfolded in terms of just, me getting to know myself better and getting, to understand myself better. So yeah, for the purposes of just, sharing my varsity story, I think I'll just end the story here. I think that's pretty much the tea, as far as my varsity life was concerned, and that's how I navigated varsity. I'm sure a lot of you are saying, "Oh my gosh, so many missed opportunities. You could have explored, you could have met, the love of your life, etc., etc." But I'm a strong and firm believer in how, life unfolds the way it should, and how we are exactly where we should be, or where God wants us to be, at any given point in time on our journey in life. And I definitely don't regret the decisions that I made at varsity. Of course, it would have been interesting to explore. Of course, it would have been interesting to sort of, walk that journey during, my varsity days and explore, etc. But I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready in as much as one could say that I was living in a glass closet. But to me, I was just not ready, and I'm glad that I did not do anything, and I did not allow anyone to push me into doing anything before I was ready, because I mean the repercussions for that would have probably been dire for me at the time, because I was going through a lot, But there are things that I wish I did differently, because when these feelings, for other men would sort of emerge at varsity, they would create an internal conflict within me. I was scared. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know how to deal with it. And I wish at the time I had the courage to be able to, use student counseling services. And I wish I had the boldness to be able to go to, and use that facility on campus to be able to talk to someone. And they probably would have, been in a position to help me to work through what I was feeling, to work through it all, and help me to make sense of it. But nonetheless, um, if you are going through that right now, I think that's the advice I'd probably give you, to say, if you are experiencing feelings for other men and you don't know how to process them, and you don't know how to deal with them, you don't know how to manage it, talk to someone, talk to a professional counselor. You don't necessarily have to see a therapist, because obviously private therapists come, at a premium. But you can see, a social worker in your local area. There are many social workers that are available to help, to assist, to help you process, to help you deal with whatever feelings and emotions that you are going through on your journey. And that, I think, is something I wish I would have done to myself, because it would have saved me a lot. Because at some point, because of all the internal conflict that I was going through and all this turmoil that I was going through within me, it affected me academically. I lost focus, because my focus was now trying to figure out what's going on with me, and it definitely impacted me. And I wish I did things differently in that regard. But overall, that was my varsity journey. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch the story. Yeah, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And until next time, bye.